Hey everybody, it's Mike Young, lifestyle nutritionist. Welcome to chapter 100 of my book, Live to 150. I'm sorry about the focusing in the last chapter. It was only about half of it, so I think I'm going to leave that there. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I probably have replaced that chapter on optimism, but it was a really optimistic chapter. I'm optimist. I am optimistic that you will like that chapter. Hopefully, we'll stay in focus here. I'm not sure what happened over there. This chapter is on gluten and celiacs and gluten intolerance, gluten sensitivity. What is the deal with all this stuff? Okay. Well, gluten is basically, I'm going to put this in layman's terms. It's basically that gluten, right? That kind of holds these wheat fibers together and makes like your pizza dough like doughy, like stretchy and more like plasticky, actually. Almost is what it does when things don't have gluten in. If you ever had like gluten-free doughs or breads or things, they don't tend to be as chewy or as I don't even know, like I said, rubbery, plasticky. It's more rubbery is more like it, I think. But what's the deal with this? Is this a real thing? Because I see like on packages, gluten-free this, gluten-free that. And of course, usually you pay more for something that's gluten-free if it's the gluten-free version rather than the regular version. What's the deal? Well, there's a lot of controversy about this. There's a lot of diehard people out there that say that gluten is just bad for the human body and we shouldn't be, shouldn't use it. And everything's got to be gluten free. I know when we do special events through our nonprofit, a lot of times I'll try to make things gluten free because I mean, basically, we're opening up to more people, especially if it's a smaller event and it's a ticketed event. I want to try to do that for people. But at the core of this whole thing, I don't really think it's an issue in my own personal opinion. Okay. This is me thinking about it. I don't think it is. And I've talked to a lot of people, especially people over friends. We have a Green Fair Organic Cafe. That's an all organic restaurant. And I think that is the real issue that's going on here. I'm not saying that these things aren't real, like gluten sensitivity, celiac disease, or anywhere in between on that whole spectrum or range of possibilities that you could have there. It's real. But what's causing it? What's the root cause? If you know in this book, that's really what I'm trying to get at, right? Is the root cause of issues. I do think it's because almost all food is not organic and is basically grown with chemicals. Because when I say something that's organic, what I really mean and what I really want is something that's totally chemical free. All right. That's what we really want to have and see. So with gluten, the idea is to eat as many things that are organic as possible, especially when you're dealing with wheat or anything that has gluten in it. And I'd say in most cases, even if you're sensitive to gluten, as long as you're eating organic, or the organic version of something or growing it chemical free, that you're not going to have the symptoms that you have when you think that you have a gluten intolerance or a gluten sensitivity, something like that. Let me know what you think. Please share your comments down below. Share your experiences with eating organic versus non-organic. If you've never considered this before, also let me know in the comments. I'd love for you to kind of maybe try this out if you've never tried it before. And even if you have celiacs, I also do believe that celiacs is just somebody that's hypersensitive to non-organic foods. And of course, the gluten may be something that activates it for those people, but I think more of the real reason of what's going on is the fact that almost all food out there is non-organic and grown with all kinds of chemicals. And of course, we know some people are just much more sensitive to chemicals than others, right? We know these things. It's not that hard to figure out. I think everyone would agree. If you agree to that, then just let me know. Yeah, say I agree in the comments just so I know, because that's what the heart of the matter is, that chemicals are labor-saving devices, but they are not ever designed to be ingested into humans without side effects, negative side effects in humans. So I would really like people to start looking at it in that way rather than just saying, okay, well, just make my food gluten-free and I'll be fine. That's not really going to solve the problem. The real solution is going to be, the real fix is when we stop growing food with chemicals, we grow all organic, we grow chemical-free. So I know that people like Green Fair Organic Cafe, they're fully organic. They get people asking all the time, like, do you have any gluten-free options? What's going on? And I know that Gwen, the owner, has said all the time that, well, even if you're gluten sensitive, if you have a gluten intolerance, you probably can enjoy this without any problems. And it's kind of hard for people to understand this, and it's kind of hard for them to even know if they were affected by eating food at this Green Fair restaurant, because if you're eating gluten-free all the other times, or if you happen to have some gluten outside of that, how are you supposed to know that you're okay here, or this or did or didn't cause you to have a flare up or something? I don't even know. It's hard for people. It's a difficult concept for a lot of people to understand. If you are considering, like I said, if you're considering this for the first time, please let me know. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love for more people to consider this, because I think it's a life, it's one of these longevity concepts. It's not avoid gluten. It's avoid food that's non-organic. Avoid food that's grown with chemicals, processed with chemicals, has chemicals sprayed on it, some kind of combination of that. We want to avoid those foods at all times, everywhere we can. And like we said, all food everywhere is not organic. So you get what I'm saying, right? If you do, please let me know in the comments. Now, another thing I wanted to give is my own personal experience with this. I'd say that, I grew up in the 70s and 80s. I'm 52 right now. And in the 70s and 80s, there weren't as many chemicals on the foods, like Roundup or glyphosate, as the chemical name is, didn't really come into play until around 1990. So I had like the first 20 years of my life, no problem. But then, in 1990, I turned 20. I actually started my own household, started buying my own food at that point in time. And I'm a big pasta eater, so I would buy a lot of pasta. And I wasn't buying organic. I didn't even understand this back when I was 20 years old, which was in 1990, quite a long time ago. So it was over 30 years ago. It's more than half my life ago. I didn't understand that, okay? Nobody explained this to me, and the whole Roundup glyphosate thing was new at the time. So I don't think a lot of people really knew what was going on. Anyway, I started eating a lot of pasta. It was inexpensive. It wasn't organic. And I started having some symptoms. For me, the symptoms were kind of bleeding out of my backside. If you know where I was going, number 2, I had a little bit of blood in there. Actually, I thought at the time that I was getting cancer. Maybe I was. Maybe cancer was taking over, because cancer's cells are always there. And if you get your body in a compromised position, which is eating a lot of food with glyphosate, especially the wheat, okay, then you're going to potentially do that to yourself. And I did notice that as I switched over to organic over the years, that went away. And I can see, looking back at it now, that gluten sensitivity, because that's a symptom, one of the symptoms of gluten sensitivity, was really just a symptom of my body kind of rejecting this glyphosate Roundup that the wheat was grown in, that's non-organic. So I want you all to consider that. I definitely think this plays a role in longevity. And it's, there's so many lawsuits nowadays against glyphosate Roundup. I think everybody knows we're on the street now as this stuff is bad. But you know what? It's still in almost all the food out there. And so you see that the gluten-free stuff is expanding. It's only in, it's in almost in opposition to the fact that they still use that chemical or something similar chemicals in the growth of the food. So let me know all of your feedback below, please. I'd love to hear what you guys have to think about this. I'd love to hear what you think about my experience with it. And like I said, my experience was mainly in the 1990s through the early 2000s when I was having issues until that's when I started phasing out. Maybe we were on the mid 2000s, phase it out to all organics or cut back. Actually, I was cutting back on the pasta because that was the stuff. It was that gluten, like I was saying, that I'm zeroing in. I'm agreeing that was the problem. What I'm not agreeing with a lot of people in the way society's handling it is, what do you do about it? That's what you need to consider here. So if you got some value out of this video, please like the video and of course subscribe so you get notification of the next chapter, and I'll see you in the next chapter. Bye-bye.